In our last episode, we spent a little bit of time in Zihuatanejo. This time around, we race the clock and a bit of weather and cover nearly 400 miles at sea on our way to Mexico's southern border.
We live in Zihuatanejo.
After checking out with Zihuatanejo's port captain, we had our farewells with Dogfish, and then we were out to sea. Well, we left a couple of hours ago from Zihuatanejo and we're heading towards Acapulco. It's about 115 miles or so, and it's pretty great sailing right now. Not super fast. Got about 6-7 knots of breeze on the beam, so we're only going about 4 knots, but it is nice. Pretty flat and comfy, which you don't get a whole lot in the ocean. So we'll take it. I've already hooked a fish. It's too small, so we let it go. But we've also seen a bunch of turtles, almost hit a couple of whales, and I've seen tons and tons of dolphins. That's pretty great. So we got about 24 hours to go, and we'll be in Acapulco. Right before we parted ways with Dogfish this morning, Marga gave us a parting gift. Ding dongs! I love ding dongs!
Delicious.
She swore that these would be great passage food, and we'd think about her the whole time we were eating it. Which I'm not gonna lie, I think it's pretty great passage food.
We love treats.
And even though our hands were full with some pretty great passage food, we were kept busy with some light and shifty wind, which meant for lots of sail changes. But as the day went on, the breeze filled in, and we had some pretty great sailing. After a fairly quick and easy 24 hours at sea, we made it to Acapulco. But things didn't go quite as planned, because the next morning, we were out of there. Well, we left Acapulco this morning. We got here yesterday and hoped to actually spend a little time in town, but it didn't happen. We're here long enough to jump in the water, go for a swim and cool off because it's cooking hot down here. But other than that, we just caught up on some sleep and triple checked the weather. And today, this morning, we're out of here. We got a few things working against us. First of all, our Mexican visas are quickly going to run out. Got a few weeks left, but beyond that, we've got some weather happening. There's just south of us, a few hundred miles, is the Tehuantepec region, which is pretty notorious. It's where a lot of hurricanes and tropical storms form in this area. And beyond that, just a lot of nasty weather happens there. And in a few days, there's a huge storm that's going to be blowing up there, and we kind of need to cover some ground and get south before that blows up. So today we're running to Huatulco, which is about 220, 240 miles, something like that. And we're hoping to get there before this big weather event happens. So we're off. We got about 6 or 7 knots of breeze on the beam. Got the spinnaker out. We're doing about 4.5 knots, and the seas are calm and flat. great. Hopefully it keeps up. But every time I say that, Brenda says I'm jinxing us.
With a forecast of 50 to 60 knots of breeze and over 20-foot seas, Acapulco was gonna have to wait.
Well, we're on day 2 of our trip down to Huatulco from Acapulco. And right now, sailing is perfect. We got about 15 to 18 knots of breeze directly on the stern, and the swell is directly on the stern, which for us is about as good as it gets. It's almost like we're anchored in kind of a slightly rolling anchorage. It's pretty nice. I can even have a drink just sitting right on the table. But we got a couple of things working against us. Even though the sailing is great, we're doing about 5.5, 6 knots, something like that, through the water, but we're only covering about between 4 and 5 knots. Got a pretty strong counter current going against us, so we're kind of going slow, even though we're going fast. That's kind of the way it goes. But beyond that, if you watched our last episode, we had a little clunking going from our steering. I tightened up what's called the trunnion nut on our hydraulic cylinder. That part's better. There's no clunking from there now, but we're still getting clunking from our inside steering. While we're here out at sea, there's not a lot I can do about it unless it really fails. But if it does, I got a plan. Actually, in our spare parts, I did bring some plugs where I can actually isolate that helm just in case things go really sideways. But right now we're working, so we're gonna leave it and hope for the best. Day 2. See ya.
Other than a couple of middle-of-the-night squalls the first night and a lightning storm that lasted the entire second night, we had a couple of mostly uneventful days at sea. And after that lightning storm fizzled out and the sun came up, Huatulco was just off in the distance.
Well, we made it to Huatulco and are tied to a dock in a marina. In the last year, I can only actually think of one other night we've been at a dock in a marina, so this is going to be kind of a treat. But we're going to be here for a handful of days, waiting out a bit of weather that's supposed to actually start tonight and last for a few days. This will be a fairly big weather system, so I'm actually kind of glad we're at the marina. So we actually got to Huatulco yesterday and spent the entire day in recuperation mode. For us, the 24 to 48 hour passages are actually the most difficult. We work in 3-hour shifts, so somebody's always running the boat on watch. But being in those 3-hour shifts, it's kind of hard to get in a rhythm with sleep and eating and blah, blah, blah. It usually takes us about 2 or 3 days just to get in that rhythm where we start to feel normal. So on a 48-hour passage, we never quite get in that rhythm. It's draining. So by the time we get here, after 2 days at sea, we're kind of wiped out. So yesterday, it was total recuperation mode. But today, we're human again. So we're gonna go check out this place. See what's here. Oh. Robbie and Justine just pulled in from Sailorama. Gonna go help them tie up.
And I don't care where we're at, it's always nice to see some friendly, familiar faces, especially when they caught some fish on the way in.
So what you got there, Robbie?
Got here we have a chula or Pacific bonito.
Looks tasty.
Yeah, they are tasty. They're nicely white fleshed. And this one I haven't caught before. I think this is the barilote. There is one tuna that looks just like the barilote, but it's not on red. We've been getting those as well lately.
Well, that looks pretty good.
Doing a great job. I'm kind of being stoppy. I kind of tend to be stoppy when I have a lot of fish.
Robbie and Justine, on their way in here today, they caught some bonito and they shared them with us. So we're going to make dinner and share it with them. It's currently here in Huatulco, 98 degrees, something like that. It's an inferno. So we're going to make dinner, eat it on shore in some shady spot with a little breeze. Get off the boat. If we don't have sushi, which is our normal go-to thing with some fresh fish, the other thing we typically do is just a quick sear. It's delicious. So that's what we're going to do. So, but before we sear it, we're going to make a little glaze that has sesame oil, soy sauce, ginger, a little salt and pepper, and then we'll coat it with sesame seeds, because that's great. And it's quick and easy. It's hot in here. It's super hot.
With a little bit of sesame oil, some soy sauce, and if you have it, some fresh ginger, which we don't. We'll add a pinch of sea salt and some pepper to taste. After the taste test, we'll pour that glaze right on top of the fish. And then finally, we'll coat all sides of the fish with a light layer of sesame seeds and throw them in a hot skillet. Since we prefer these things to be medium rare, a quick minute on each side is all it takes. Yep, that's perfect.
Look at Robbie's got.
Fried fish.
Oh, that looks really good.
Yeah.
It's not
Nice.
the original batter though. The original batter has beer in it and oats and.
It looks really good.
This is the Marina, like Yachty sundowner.
Bottoms up.
With some pretty amazing fresh fish, some friends around, and a nice shady spot on shore, yeah, you can't beat it.
Marination and then you grill it and then you like.
But that's about it for this episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.